All right, we're back. UFC Fight Night. Namajunas taking on Tracy Cortez. Not gonna lie, this is not the greatest main event. Obviously, however, there's some great fights on the card. You know, the Doberman's on the card. Gabriel Bonfim, Ponzinibbio. Decent fights. I call these bankroll builders, right? Trying to build that bankroll for UFC 304 coming up. That's a pretty good pay-per-view at the end of the month. So just trying to build that bankroll so we can unleash on the pay-per-view and just crush everybody. If you guys need a place to BetUS, promo code Iceman. You guys use that promo code. I'm going to try to get you the best promotions in the game. 125% deposit bonus on your first initial 3 deposits. Before I get into it, man, this Sphere card, this is looking crazy. So I just seen a thing today, Brendan Schaub. I don't know, some of you guys don't like him. I listen to him sometimes because he's got some, people in the loop where, you can get some inside information a little easier than, someone like myself. But apparently he's claiming Conor McGregor is going to be on the Sphere card, which makes no sense, really. Because he's going to be the main event. If Conor's fighting, I don't really see him settling to be in a co-main event. And you want to put some title fights on there, right? You want to put Ilya Topuria versus Max Holloway. You want to put Sean O'Malley versus Merab. You want to have some title fights on that Sphere card because it is such a big card. So I don't know if they're going to put Conor McGregor on that card. It just doesn't make sense to have him fight in a co-main. He's a main event guy, clearly. But he doesn't have a belt, right? And for a card like that, you're going to want some belts on the line. And in my opinion, for a card like that, you got to put on Poatan. Poatan needs to be on that card, man. This guy right now is he reminds me of Chuck Liddell. I don't know. I'm a little older, some of you guys. And I was watching the UFC, back in the day, early 2000s. And Chuck Liddell was the man, bro. Like, when he was fighting and he was on top, when he was the champ, when he's fighting the Babaloos, and man, he was insane when he was fighting the Randy Couture's, the Tito Ortiz's. He was destroying people, and it was to the point where it was just like, we just want to see Chuck Liddell fight and see who his next victim is going to be and how he knocks them out. Pereira is giving me that vibe now. I told you last fight, we bet on Pereira, obviously. And, man, he looked phenomenal. And if I'm Alex Pereira's coach, you got to look for that John Jones fight, man. That's, in my opinion, if you're going to go up to heavyweight, who cares about Tom Aspinall? That means nothing. You go out there, beat Tom Aspinall, that's nothing, bro. I mean, people are all high up on him, but, man, let's see if he even gets past Curtis Blades, because the first time he fought Curtis Blades, he got injured, but what happens if he, something else happens and he can't get past Curtis Blades? So I want to see Poatan take on John Jones, man. That is the fight to make. No brainer. Who cares about Stipe? I don't really care, but the UFC's got some thing for Stipe, so let them fight, whatever. But they got to do that John Jones Poatan fight. And if Poatan wins that, you got to retire now. You're retiring on top. That's GOAT status. If you can beat John, and I'll tell you right now, if the Dominic Reyes John Jones shows up, John Jones is going to sleep. The same John Jones that showed up to fight Dominic Reyes, showed up to fight Thiago Santos, that boy better not show up to fight Poatan. And that being said, if the John Jones that fought Cyril Gane shows up, Poatan might be in trouble. But that's going to be crazy. That's a no-brainer for me. I gotta, you gotta put that fight on. MVP, put him against Wonder Boy. I don't care if they're friends. I want to see who's the better karate guy, 5-rounder, like things like that. The UFC slipping on, in my opinion. You got Rose Namajunas fighting Tracy Cortez in a main event. It's like, do you want people to tune in? to these fight night cards. That doesn't seem to me like you do just by putting this main event on. I mean, I don't care if Rose is fighting Tracy Cortez on the card, but they should not be a main event. Sorry. And I like Rose. Rose is great. She's a great fighter. Her skills are very good. Very good striker. Great jiu-jitsu game as well. But mentally, she's not there. Mentally, she's extremely fragile, extremely emotional. Mentally, she's not there. But whatever. So after her 2 straight losses at 115, she's a straw weight. She's moving up to flyweight, right? So she lost to Carla Esparza, which was one of the most boring fights I've seen in a long time. Then her last fight before Amanda Ribas, she fought Manon Forio. Manon pieced her up. And, her last fight, she fought Amanda Ribas, who's actually a very good fighter herself. Black belt in jiu-jitsu, decent striker. And Rose, pieced her up, wanted a unanimous decision win. Now she's taking on Tracy Cortez, the ex-girlfriend of Brian T. City Ortega. And she's been actually on a roll, Tracy Cortez, 11 wins in a row. So her record is 11-1. I believe her only loss is her first fight ever in MMA. So, and ever since then, she's been on a roll, just destroying people. So clearly she's the real deal. 11 fight win streak, but now she's got her toughest test in Rose Namajunas. I'm slightly leaning towards Rose Namajunas by decision on this one. I feel like this one is going to go to decision. So I'll go with Rose on that one, probably by decision, because these girls, I have a feeling, is going to go to decision. Up next, Santiago Ponzinibbio taking on Muslim Salikov. Muslim Salikov has not been looking the same. After that injury, came back and fought the Leech. Just has not looked good, man. And Ponzinibbio, man, he has not looked good either, man. After that injury, he was on a huge win streak, Ponzinibbio was. He was on a nice win streak. Even knocked out Gunnar Nelson in the first round. Like, he was knocking people dead. And then, after that Magny fight, he got injured, took like 3 years off. So after the Magny fight, 3 years off, and that was in 2018. Comes back in 2021 against the Leech and just gets destroyed, knocked out, and has not looked the same ever since. He lost to Jeff Neal, lost to Michelle Pereira, lost to Kevin Holland, man. That's 3 or 4 losses in your last 6 fights. So 4 losses in your last 6 fights. That's not too good. Now he's the favorite going into this one, taking on Muslim Salikov, who's, the Kung Fu guy, the Russian fighting out of Dagestan. Great striker, decent grappler, not the greatest grappler, but he's a guy who likes to stand and strike. And, he hasn't been looking good either, coming off 2 straight losses. Only has 1 win in his last 4 fights, and that was over Andre Fiallo, who's just been on a huge losing streak. He lost to the Leech as well, lost to Nicholas Dalby, Randy Brown. So he's got 3 losses last 4 fights. I'm leaning towards Ponzinibbio on this one, but both these guys have, really not been looking good. And I can see one of these guys getting cut with the loss here. Up next, the Doberman, Drew Dober, taking on Jean Silva. So Drew Doberman, this guy is a guy who's always, he's game. He's a guy who's ready to go. He'll stand and bang with you. He's had some crazy performances. The ones with Terrence McKinney, where he almost got knocked out, then he comes back, finishes McKinney. The one with Rafael Alves, who just knocked out, James Vick in Karate Combat. I don't know if you guys seen that, but Rafael Alves scissor kicked him in the head, just destroyed James Vick. Right, he got cut from the UFC, but his fight with Drew Dober was really exciting. And even that Bobby Green one, man, he's, knocked out Bobby Green. But then he fought, Matt Frivola, the steamroller, got destroyed by him. That was not a good performance. And then his last fight against Manny Moicano, Renato Moicano just grinded him out as well. So now he's taking on Jean Silva, the Brazilian, who just fought. This guy just fought, Jean Silva. Just beat up Charles Air Jourdain. And that was a big win. And that was 2 weeks ago. So he's just fought 2 weeks ago. Now he's taking on the Doberman. I think it's a hard fight for Jean Silva. I'm going to lean towards the Doberman on this one. I think Drew should get it done. I think his experience. That being said, Jean Silva did look good against Charles Air Jourdain, who's got a lot of experience himself. I just think Drew Dober's a little tougher test than Charles Jourdain, and he did fight 2 weeks ago, which means he's going to be cutting weight again. He's moving up in weight, so now he's fighting at a different weight class that's not originally his actual weight class. He's moving up in weight. So I'm going to lean towards Drew Dober on that one. I think he should get it done. Up next, Gabriel Bonfim, the Bonfim brothers. These boys were savages. He was undefeated for a while, was Bonfim. And that one loss was his last fight against Nicholas Dalby, which was a horrible, horrible performance. He was a huge favorite going into that. I think he was minus 500, minus 600 on some odds makers, and he literally let them down. He got destroyed by Dalby. But I'm telling you right now, he's going to come in with a vengeance against Ange Lusa, and he's going to absolutely destroy this boy. Brian Battle was piecing up Ange Lusa his last fight, and it was an eye poke, and then he sort of faked it, said he couldn't see, and then the fight ended up being a no contest, and Brian Battle started, talking smack to him after the fight, and they almost started fighting after the fight, after the no contest, but a little weird situation there in my opinion. It was an eye poke, but it was, I felt like he could have continued. Obviously, the fight was going a way where he was probably going to lose that. So instead of taking the loss, he got a no contest out of it, which is, a lot better than having a loss on your record. But I'll go with Bonfim on that one. Up next, Julian Arosa taking on Christian Rodriguez. Man, Julian Arosa, this guy's, he's been looking decent. He's got some pretty good wins, man. Beat Charles Jourdain, beat Hakeem Dawodu. His last fight, he guillotine choked Ricardo Ramos, the guy with the spinning elbows. But then he's also had some performances where you're just like, oh man, that's brutal. Like the one with Alex Caceres, the Bruce Leroy, just got head kicked in the first round and, destroyed. Christian Rodriguez, he's all right. He's been looking good. His most impressive win, in my opinion, was over the 19-year-old kid, Raul Rosas Jr. That was probably, his most impressive victory, and that was the one where he was an underdog going into it, and everyone thought he was going to get steamrolled by this young kid, and he came up and, won a unanimous decision win. But I think I'm going to go with Julian Arosa on this one. I think I'm going to go with the underdog because Julian Arosa. He's got some pretty decent wins, man. Christian Rodriguez, he's good, but he's not that experienced. I think Julian Arosa, if he shows up, the same Julian Arosa that beat Ricardo Ramos and beat Charles Jourdain, beat Sean Woodson, if he shows up, I think he wins. But the question is which Julian Arosa shows up, and he's got a lot of experience, man. He's got just as many losses as this guy has fights, right? And, over that, he's got 29 more pro fights than Christian Rodriguez. 29 is a lot of pro fights more. That's a lot more experience, and he's an underdog. I'll go with the underdog on that one. Up next, Abdul Razak Alhassan. Coming off a loss to Joe Pfeiffer. That guy's the real deal, though, is Joe Pfeiffer. He had that split decision loss to Buckley. But before that, he was on a horrible losing streak. 3 losses in a row. Has not been looking good, man. And now he's taking on Cody Brundage, who, they just fed him to Bo Nickel his last fight, and he's not been looking too great either. He's got 4 losses in his last 6 fights. Now, that being said, he had a couple good performances. The one over Jacob Malkoun and Zach Reese. He slammed Zach Reese and finished him, but I think I'm going to go with Abdul Razak Alhassan on that one. I think he should be able to get that one done. And the last one I'm going to touch on here is this one. Josh Fremd taking on Andre Petroski. Man, last few fights of Andre Petroski have been so atrocious that I'm betting against him for sure on this one. Even odds, I'll take Josh Fremd all day, even though Josh Fremd's not the greatest. But he's got some decent wins, beat Cedric Dumas, beat Jamie Pickett, lost to Fluffy Hernandez. Okay, Fluffy's the real deal. Lost to Roman Kopylov his last fight. That was not a good performance. He lost by a body shot. Hate seeing that. But, the fact that he's fighting Andre Petroski, who's been looking awful. Like his chin, even like his last fight against Jacob Malkoun, when he sort of went down, it was just a weird, like the way he fell. It didn't even seem like he took a shot that hard. Clearly his chin's gone. So I'm going with Josh Fremd on this one. I think he should be able to get it done. Even odds, I'll take it. I haven't placed any bets yet, but if I do, I'll try to share those. And if you guys need a place to bet, obviously BetUS, promo code Iceman. Let's make that money. Let's stack it up for that UFC coming up. Out.